So the first thing that lots of people get very wrong is simply just light in their videos.
I keep saying to people, look at your video before you press record, which sounds really daft, but I think a lot of people literally just get the camera out, press record, and they don't take a moment to just look at what the image looks like. But there's a really quick fix, a really easy fix. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Grow Your Business with Video podcast. My name's Alex Wardle, I am your host, and if you're new to the show, welcome. I hope you enjoy and learn a lot from what we've got to share with you. This show is all about helping you to get more effective video. That's what we're all about at Artifact Media, which is my video production company. I got sick and tired years ago of creating videos that I knew no one was going to watch, and if they did watch, they weren't going to benefit from at all. They were videos that just screamed me about the business in question, and they offered nothing of value back to the viewer. So I decided to stop doing that once and for all, and have never looked back since. And I want to share some of the tips and techniques and fundamentals, really, that I've picked up along the way, along the journey, and that we employ for our clients every single time we go out and film a production. I want to share those with you so that you are better equipped to make more effective video and reap the rewards of doing so. But anyway, today's episode is all about these. Smartphone filming. We all have amazing cameras at our fingertips now, but actually a lot of people aren't really using them to the best of their ability, and there's a lot left to be desired, to be honest. And so me and Naomi in this episode talk about 4 fundamental tips that are going to improve your smartphone filming and give you much better quality and more professional looking videos as a result, which in turn, obviously, is going to position you more as a professional and someone who is clearly proud of the content that they're creating, puts a lot of time and effort and energy into making it as best as it can be. And your customer and your prospective customers are going to see you so much more as a premium business and an authority figure. Before we dive into the discussion, I just wanted to quickly say that my book of the same title as this podcast is a much more in-depth guide into some of the things that we're going to be discussing in this episode. So if you like what you hear, I would highly recommend that you get yourself a copy of this book. Not only is it a really in-depth resource in and of itself, but it also comes with a few bonuses, which are in the form of video. And the idea is that I show you in these videos how to put into practice some of the things that you're going to learn in the book. So the link to get the book is in the show notes of this episode. But anyway, into the discussion all about smartphone filming. Afternoon, Naomi.
Afternoon, Alex.
How's it going?
Not too bad on this lovely Easter Sunday.
It is, yes. Easter, it is, yeah. It's hard to keep track of
days.
Yes, I was gonna say what's the word, like holidays, like occasions. What's the word? Like calendar days that are like, oh, it's Easter Sunday, it's Good Friday.
Holidays.
Yeah, it's hard, but you're absolutely right in that it's actually just hard to keep track of days, full stop, at the moment. We're still very much in lockdown as we're recording this episode. And because of that, I have decided to take the time to absolutely turn the living room upside down and set up for podcasts, which I hope is okay. I mean, it's too late now if it's not, but...
Yeah, our living room is unrecognisable right now.
If you're watching this podcast, you might not be able to tell so much because I have positioned the cameras in such a way that we're getting just nice close-up shots. But there's actually chaos behind it all.
Yeah, he's made it look beautiful, but behind the scenes, it's
awful.
It's
as we would say up here.
it's quite horrific.
I promise we'll get a living room back shortly. Anyway, but first, before we down tools everything, we need to share some hopefully useful tips with our listeners. And today we decided it would be a good idea to talk about some very quick and easy things you can do to improve your smartphone videos, because we've all got amazing cameras in our pockets these days. And, you know, it's never been easier or cheaper to make great video content, like really, really good. People ask me all the time, like, or they'll see the big cameras and the rigs that we descend onto people's businesses when we're doing productions. And a few people in the past have like joked with me and been like, "Oh, well, my iPhone's pretty good as well, to be fair." But I always say, yeah, it is. Like, they are really good these days. But there are certain things you can do to get the most out of them.
I also think you can still make an iPhone video look terrible too, because of a few very simple things that are just, if you don't know about them, then you don't know about them, and you can just make what could have been a beautiful shot with an iPhone, because they've got good cameras in them these days, like you say, or other smartphones with good cameras are available too. So we're going to talk about like these few things to help you get the most out of iPhone cameras.
Yes,
for
definitely.
good video. Yeah,
absolutely. And these are really simple as well. I think there's only one tip on our little list of 4 where which requires you to get some external equipment, like an extra bit of kit. And even then, I say this all the time, there's 2 recommendations I have for that one, and one of them is the best 50 quid you'll ever spend. And I say that to people all the time. But
why don't we start talking about the things instead of talking about what they could be?
About what they could be. Yeah, okay, let's do it. Well, you've got the list, Naomi, so hit me up with the first one.
Yes, okay. So the first thing that is completely free, that lots of people get very wrong, is simply just light in their videos. You know, people stand in front of a window and shoot like
with the window behind them.
With the window behind them, like towards the light, and like actually you're just gonna see all the light. The camera's gonna see all the light, and it just can't control. Alex will be able to tell you the more like techie reasons of why.
You're doing great. That's exactly how I would describe it as well.
Of why the camera like can't understand. It's not like the eye, really, basically.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's the fundamental point. And a very good point. Well made, Naomi. Yes. So cameras are amazing, as we've said already, and the technology is always improving. But I tell you what's more amazing: the human eye. We can see a massive dynamic range, as it's called, which sounds techie and horrible. But if you think about what it actually means, it's the range between 2 things that are very different dynamic, yeah? So we can see at the same time, within a certain level, something that is quite dark and something that is quite bright. So if you go around your pal's house and, you know, perhaps they've got their sofa in front of the window and you are sitting across the room from them, you can quite happily have a conversation, even though the light is blaring in through the window and, you know, your eyes are having to make some kind of judgment based on the intense light coming in, but then their face is going to be comparatively quite dark. But the human eye could do that quite easily. Cameras cannot, basically. As I say, it's always improving, and the dynamic range that they can capture is incredible these days. But when we're limiting this to smartphones and the camera equipment that people have in their pockets, then it's just not gonna work. But there's a really quick fix, a really easy fix. You know what it is?
You need to turn around.
Just turn around, exactly. And this applies as well to if you're filming outdoors. The amount of times that I see people who have clearly just, like, I keep saying to people, look at your video before you press record, which sounds really daft because it's like, well, aren't you looking at it anyway? Because it's video. But I think a lot of people literally just like get the camera out, press record, and they don't take a moment to just look at what the image looks like. And so the sun will probably be behind them, which is exactly the same scenario as you described there, but outdoors where the camera just can't, it has to make a compromise between the bright and the dark, and ultimately it's just going to look crap. However, if you get a nice big light source in front of you, well, you're going to be nicely lit then, and the camera's not going to have to make any judgments as to, you know, oh, which one should I expose for, because it's all going to be much more evenly lit. Yeah, so that's tip number 1, is to look at what the light is actually doing in your image. And I'll just bullet point this now, because this applies to all the tips that we're going to share. If you are of the disposition where you might think, oh, well, is anyone going to notice? You know, is it really that important? Do I really need to kind of just like do the video and get it done and get it out there as quickly as possible? There's nothing stopping you, I would say. And some things are going to be more important than others in terms of if you're just making, you know, if you're filming a daft little WhatsApp video to send to your other half, I don't think they're going to be particularly bothered about the lighting. However, when it comes to your business and when it comes to showing the world what you're all about, what I always say to people is that whatever they see, whatever your customers and your prospects see, is a direct reflection of what they think they're going to get. So if your video looks haphazard, they may subconsciously even think they might have a bit of a haphazard business here. Clearly, they don't care so much about how they're presenting themselves to the world. And if you think about it, that is a really dangerous state. If you're coming across like you're not really bothered how you look or how you sound, how you're being perceived, that's massive. I think that's completely detrimental to one's business.
Yeah, and I just having something be aesthetically pleasing, like, isn't just pleasing for the sake of it. Like, we like to look at nice things, and if someone is like maybe just putting a quick video on a social media platform, but there's like bright sun in one corner of the room, there's shadow on their face, and like there's I don't know, something else messy going on. I'm not saying that the video needs to be perfect and your surroundings need to be amazing, but there's just something more pleasant about feeling relaxed when you're watching like a video of someone's, and that helps when it's bright and just a little bit more pleasing to look at, and it can be simply done. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point, and actually it segues quite nicely into the one of our next tips about sound, because
actually that was tip number 3. But
well, I'm going to leapfrog that one if that's okay. Another kind of fundamental of videos in general, and I suppose about just all visual medium, as you just said quite rightly, Naomi, is that people are more likely to pick up on stuff that's wrong than they are to think that the stuff that's right looks amazing. So you might put loads of effort, as I have done today, into making our podcast look really good with the lights and the set dressing, I suppose I could call it. If I would say 90% of people aren't really going to think, they're not going to see this setup and think, oh wow, he's clearly put loads of effort into that. Like, not necessarily. But if I was to do the opposite, if I was to do nothing and just use, like you said, the natural light that's coming into the room and just kind of press record, it's more likely that people will think, oh, that looks a bit crap. Do you know what I mean? And so what I think demonstrates this a bit better is the next tip, which is about sound. Mm-hmm. George Lucas famously said, famously in the film industry anyway, that sound is half of the picture, which is very, very true. And this whole point about what people notice is I think it applies more, in fact, to sound. So people are more likely to pick up on bad sound than they are to like compliment you on good sound. Yeah. So if you're doing like a talking heads type thing, or there's any kind of dialogue or speech in your video, if it sounds great, if it sounds absolutely fantastic, no one's really going to comment and be like, oh my God, this video sounds amazing. Your voice is so clear and beautiful. Like, that doesn't really happen.
You're just going to sit and enjoy it. Like it would if you were watching an amazing movie and it sounded great. But then if the voices didn't line and sync up with it, then you would notice that.
Exactly. Or if it sounded echoey or like muffled or whatever. And, this is a big obstacle and a big issue that we need to contend with when we're doing smartphone filming, because we're quite limited in terms of, your smartphone is what it is. It's got a microphone inside it and it's got a camera, and that's kind of it. And much of this depends on your environment as well. Sometimes it's going to be within your control, other times it's not. If you're filming, I mean, what just happened to us when we were trying to film this episode? Next door started trimming the grass, so we had to pause.
This wasn't the first take.
No, it's never the first take.
It's a weekend, so people are mowing their lawns.
Yes, and it's a weekend in coronavirus crisis, so 10 times the amount of people are mowing the lawns. But so something's going to be in your control with sound. However, there's a really good tip that we can share with people to massively improve the sound in their videos, which isn't necessarily, as I say, going to get you like loads of compliments and stuff. However, I guarantee, like I'm so confident about this, that people will engage with your videos so much better, and you will be perceived as being more professional and coming across as that much more like you care about what you're putting out there. And the simple tip is to get a separate microphone. So sometimes when I give this tip to people, they kind of, you can see they recoil a little bit and they're like, oh, but I don't want to buy any gear. I don't want to like have the faff on. I like how I can just get the smartphone out and press record and that's it and not have to worry about it. Well, this is like the level of effort that this needs is minimal. It's you don't need, there's no excuse, I think, to not put this into practice.
The microphone that we're going to talk about as well is very tiny and just very handy. It goes in a little pouch and it's just not a big deal. And it's not going to look like it's so small and minimal. It's not going to look like a big deal. If you are filming outside or something, it is really easy to use.
Totally, yeah.
And it makes such a difference as
That's
well,
it.
because I am terrible for putting my hand over the microphone if I'm holding my phone, which was actually what we were going to talk about in tip number 2, but I'll come.
We'll come on to that. That's a good point, and I see people doing that a lot, and I've done it myself as well. You
don't realise at first.
No, you don't realise because you don't. It's not like when we're filming, quote, properly with the cameras and stuff where we've got headphones plugged in and we're always monitoring to make sure that what the cameras are capturing is good because you're just doing it on your phone, so you're not listening back. So it's very easy, and I think we've all done it, like you say, hold the phone a certain way, play it back, and it's like, actually, I can't hear a thing on that. It sounds awful. Anyway, so the mic, there's 2 mics actually, both from a company called Rode. These mics are Rode, actually, as well. We're not sponsored by them, but we'd quite like to be. So if you want to sponsor us, Rode, that'd be great. So the first one is the SmartLav Plus. This is a lavalier microphone, which clips on to your shirt, and then a cable runs down and goes into your phone. And that's it. It's as simple as that. And honestly, as I said, the quality difference is massive. And yeah, this is the 50 quid one. At the time of recording this, it's about 50 quid. If you look after it, it'll last you forever. You can use it outside if you get a little windshield thing for it as well. And honestly, the difference is huge. It's pretty much as close to when we're filming events and stuff, and we put similar lav mics on people. The quality difference is negligible. It really is excellent. And the other one, which you mentioned, that goes in a little pouch, is basically the wireless version of that. It's called the Wireless Go, again by Rode, and it is the smallest wireless lav mic system in the world at the moment. You get 2 little... I've done a video on this as well. If you're watching this podcast, you'll see some footage of this now. If you're not, there'll be a link in the show notes to see this in action, because I think absolutely everyone should go and get one of these. But you get 2 little square things. One is a transmitter, one is a receiver. And the idea is the transmitter has a mic in it itself, so you don't need a wired thing, although you can get one. You can plug one of those in as well. You clip that to yourself, and then that wirelessly transmits the microphone signal to the receiver, which you plug into your phone. So you've got wireless lapel mic audio quickly, easily, and for very cheap as well.
And I think the good thing about these microphones as well is that when you're outside, you're kind of capturing on your phone. If you're just using your phone's microphone, then you're capturing all the possible sound, and they'll be fighting each other, and your voice won't be quite as loud in a good way as it should be. And having this lapel mic here, it just captures like your voice immediately, and it's just nice and crisp, and it just sounds so much better.
Yeah, totally. It's you reminded me of a good point actually as well. It's similar to the visual side that we were talking about before, in that I think the reason why people don't necessarily think about sound so much is because like the human ear is really forgiving as well. And you have to remember that, like, because I learned about this at uni, and literally the reason we have ears and the reason that they're shaped the way they are is because they capture the sound in a very particular way. So that's why me and you sitting across the room from each other can have a conversation and totally, you know, the sound of each other's voices, it's as good as it could possibly be, kind of thing. We don't even think about it. But if you record that with, you know, if I was to get the smartphone out and just press record, the first thing you're going to notice is that it's really echoey. It's going to sound really echoey compared to real life. And it's because the microphone on your smartphone doesn't look like an ear. It's not shaped in that way. It doesn't capture sound the same way at all. And even these microphones, you know, they're massive leap in terms of quality, but it's still not the human ear. And so, as you just said, having a lapel mic that's actually here, it's like as close as it can possibly be to the source of the audio, it just increases it. It increases the quality massively.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough on that one. That's a good tip. What's the next one?
So, yeah, the other thing I was going to talk about is when I mentioned, like, holding your iPhone and potentially, like, covering the mic up accidentally and stuff. And so it's basically about using a tripod of some sort. And I think, particularly at the minute, in these quarantine times, this is a very good product to tell people about, because everyone's doing like video calls with their family and friends, and actually, like, you know, they've been really fun and they've been lasting hours, and we've been doing quizzes and playing online games and stuff, but people eventually get sick of holding their phone in their hand.
Is this like when you told me this tip, like before we started rolling? I was kind of annoyed that I didn't think of this myself, because it's so simple.
Yeah.
But like it's so true, and people, like you say, people just don't think about it.
I just do not want to sit and hold my phone. Like, I'm just like not comfortable and concentrating on where it is. Whereas when I've been nicking this mic of Alex's all the time over these past few weeks. So it's called, this particular one that I like that we use is called a Gorilla Pod.
Viewers of this podcast will now get a kind of shoddy demonstration from myself on the camera.
So it's kind of got like beads for legs, which means you can like turn them and bend them and wrap them in different ways. So you could like hook it on something if you wanted as well. And I just think and then you get a little phone holder part. It's also a glorified selfie stick. You just bend it in a certain way so that it's acting like. There we go. Alex is doing a demonstration right now for those watchers.
Hold it out like that, and then you've got like a little bit of extra distance from it.
It just takes away some of, if you're walking and doing a video as well, you literally feel that thud like through your walking, and that just kind of softens it a little bit.
True.
And takes it away.
It acts as like a stabilization platform, doesn't it?
Slightly, yeah.
Definitely. There are different versions of these available. Because mine's a few years old now, and I got it so that I could use it with my bigger camera as well. But I think there is a version that comes with a little phone holder. But because we don't have that one, what we got as well is just one of these off Amazon. And there's two reasons I got this actually. But this one, so it's just like a similar thing to what you'd find when you get like a dashboard phone holder thing for your car.
Or a selfie stick.
Yeah. And the Gorilla Pod that we've got has this little plate thing. So the idea is that you screw this into the bottom. So now, as quick as you like, your phone holder just clips in to the Gorilla Pod. And then you get your phone and you set this accordingly.
The reason Alex likes this specific one that he is playing with right now is because it has also a little mount for the microphones that we were just talking about. For the receiver part, it's got a little
cold shoe, as they call it.
A what?
Cold shoe.
It's got a little shoe.
So if anyone's got like a stills camera, they'll probably see this. On the top of your camera is a little square thing, and it's to put a flash on top of. So you put the flash on, and it's a hot shoe. And the reason it's called a hot shoe is because there are electrical contacts, so your camera can communicate with the flash on the top. But this is a cold shoe because it's just a dumb one. There's no there's no electrical stuff going on here. And
it's a mount.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
I do have another video on this as well, so maybe I'll put some footage in of that. But yes, it means that you can put the mic receiver on the top here and run the cable into your phone, and it's the most minimal way of doing that, because I mean otherwise you're going to have your receiver in your phone, and the receiver, you're going to have like nowhere to put it. You're just going to have to like tape it or something like that. But this is spot on for doing that, and as you can see, you know, it rotates if you put your phone in correctly, as I haven't done. But you could have it vertical in that as well. And I think it's such a good point of not only the fact that you get massively tired holding your phone, but also we've all been there when like we think, oh, I'll put my phone down somewhere and I'll continue filming, or I'll continue doing this call. But then your headphones are sticking out of the bottom, so you can't stand it up because the cable's coming out. There's that as well.
Again, in these quarantine times, we've had this friends' phones running out of battery, and then they're like, oh, I need to go down there. Oh, I can't turn it. I'm going to turn it on its side because it's charging, and then like everyone's filming like on the side like this.
Exactly.
So
I think there's a lot to be said, just as a little segue, for a really stable video as well. And it depends what you're filming and what kind of video you want and stuff. And like, I think some people think that like motion is good, and if they're doing like a walking, talking video, then that's good because it's more exciting and more interesting. And I don't disagree. I think sometimes that's cool.
But yeah, in your proper camera stuff, you like to do handheld.
Oh, for sure.
You don't like to do everything on a tripod, so it's just like stagnant. You like to, if someone's talking, you like to have that really like little gentle bit of movement. Yeah. But when it's like a camera phone in your hand, like that becomes shaky.
Yeah. And purely the fact that 90% of people are just holding their phones means that if you've got a really steady, stable shot, you're immediately going to look probably more pro, as it were. Because you've clearly, you're taking the time and the effort to make it, just look that much more polished, I suppose. Yeah. So there we go. Get yourself something like a GorillaPod or a little tripod for your camera. Do we have another tip? We
have another tip. No. The last tip is about just quick editing for your videos. So instead of just this is my bugbear basically, like pressing go, coming over here, getting yourself ready, and then starting to do it. It's like, I don't want to see that part of someone's video.
First couple of seconds are like shuffle.
You can
guys.
You can chop them off on the edit parts of your smartphone. Like, you don't even have to use a piece of software.
No.
And you can get rid of that. But we're going to talk about a couple of very simple pieces of software, basically, where you can edit your videos so that if you are filming, then you make a mistake and you're like, oh, I'm going to have to do that whole thing again.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with doing some parts of it again because you get into more rhythm and flow, but if you want to take little pauses in between like little things that you want to talk about, it just means that you can like stop and start your video and like chop things together and
it's I know that a lot of people are averse to doing any kind of editing, and I understand why, because it can be, you know, a bit tricky and stuff if you've never done something like that before. And I think as well that editing on your smartphone is I mean, it's easy, but
it's possible.
You have to remember that like video editing is quite a complicated thing, and what the software people have had to do is cram loads of different commands and functions into a little screen. Yeah. So you have to, depending on what software you're using, you have to become familiar with icons and the software manufacturer's own way of saying this function does this.
Yeah.
But it's really not that difficult once you get into it. I mean, on Premiere, on the Adobe stuff, cut is scissors. So if you want to slice your video and, as you said, cut it down into something else, it's scissors. So that makes sense. So a little bit of learning works there.
You've turned your
I have
flash on.
The thing about editing down a video that Naomi was on about before, again, for viewers, this won't make for particularly good listening, but basically, here's a video of a cat that we saw on our walk the other day.
A Bengal cat.
It's a very pretty cat. Literally on a smartphone, on an iPhone, you just need to go to edit when you're looking at the video, and then the first thing you get is this option to cut it down. So if you've got a few seconds of guff at the start and the end, as most people will, you can literally just chop that out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you can get it close.
Yeah.
Press done, and then you're done.
People don't like long videos. They want to see like the action, like right there in front of them. So it's very easy to just at least crop the ends and the beginnings of your video.
Yeah. And it takes the pressure off you as well, doesn't it? Because you're no longer having to think, oh, well, I need to press record and then immediately go.
Yeah.
Like, no, why would you do that?
Yeah.
When we're filming properly on our productions, there's never been a time when I've pressed record with the hope of like capturing what needs to happen immediately after I've pressed record.
Yeah.
We're just rolling all the time, and then if it happens, it happens, and then we cut it later, and that's the way to do it, isn't it? The bits of software, if you are looking to do a little bit of sort of more involved editing, which will pay you back in the long run, as Naomi said, because you can then film multiple different takes and put them together to make something that's a lot more polished. iMovie comes with iPhone, so it's free. It's a little bit limited here and there, but it's definitely very simple to use, and it's free. So that would be the first port of call. It's
not amazing, but it is an absolute start to adding like a couple of very short videos and building one new video and chopping bits up and stuff. It's definitely a start for, again, if you are filming a like to the camera piece, and you take a pause, and then you might want to cut that pause out, or you might want to stop and then start when you talk about your next thing and stuff. And it's just a very simple way to begin doing that at the very least. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so it really doesn't take much to get to grips with these editing programs. They're designed to be very, very simple to use, but they're going to increase the production values of your videos massively. And that's going to, in turn, make you look like more of a professional, like someone who really cares about what they're doing and is proud of what they're putting out there. And if people put all of our tips that we've just shared into practice at the same time, I mean, how's that going to go? Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have videos that at least don't look really bad. And if the editing part is going to be made easier by even just having your phone like propped up on that tripod, or like using it as a selfie stick, because it's just like more accessible rather than being clunky in your hand. Having the sound just taken care of as well, and that's just definitely going to sound beautiful. And just if that sun or light source is just gently like actually facing you rather than behind you, then that's going to look so much. It's going to improve your videos so much.
Yeah. Like each of these tips used in isolation is going to increase the quality of your videos for sure.
Yeah.
Putting them all into use at the same time is going to seriously set you apart from the vast majority of content out there.
It'll definitely look like a produced video almost, but you've done it yourself.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So there we go. So Naomi, would you mind just quickly running through those tips again, just as a little wrap up, and then we'll call it a day, I think.
Yes. Tip number 1, light. Don't use it. Use the sunlight.
Don't use it, or use it?
No, use the sunlight. Use the light. Like have the light facing you so that you are lit up. Also, sound. That we mentioned a couple of little microphones that are very, very small, just tiny little things that you plug in, but they just make, like, because the microphone is right, like, near your mouth, it's just going to make the sound so much more crisp, and people are going to be able to hear it very clearly. There was also tripod. So GorillaPod we mentioned, it can be used as a selfie stick. It just takes your hands away from it, and it just makes it just ups that level of like professional rather than like holding this like shaky video. And also quick editing as well. So just a couple of little pieces of software where you can take off the beginning of your videos where you are, press and go on the, like press and record. And if you make a mistake, you can just cut it out, or you can have pauses and patch things together.
Yeah.
So it's going to look like none of it takes long once you get used to it.
No.
And we're happy to help people get used to it as well.
Yes, absolutely, we are. And on that note, a good point. If you have your own experience of any of these tips to share, if you've put them into good use and you're making some absolutely class videos now and your customers and your clients are loving them, then do let us know. Send us an email. Everything you need to get in touch is in the show notes. We're happy to share some success stories on the show. Equally, if you have any questions or any struggles or concerns, then get in touch with us as well, because if you're having those, it's like being at school. If you're struggling with something, then probably someone else in the class is struggling as well. So you should put your hand up and ask, because then we can help everyone, and we'll answer some of those questions in a future episode. But that's great. Thanks very much for your time, Naomi. I hope you enjoyed this episode at home.
I did, thank you.
So did I. We'll see you next time. So time for a bit of honesty from yourself. Are you getting the most out of your smartphone camera, or are you taking a bit more of a haphazard approach? Hopefully you agree that the tips that we've shared with you today are actually pretty straightforward, don't require a lot of extra effort or energy, but actually the results that you get back are going to be so much better. And if you really care about the marketing of your business and the perception of your business that's held by your customer, then I hope that you will implement some of these tips. The best thing about them is that they're not obviously just limited to smartphone filming. You can put these into practice from now until forever, no matter what equipment you're using, and you're going to get great results as a result. If you do put them into practice, it would be great to hear what you think of them, and maybe see some before and afters of your videos beforehand and now. So do let us know. You can get in touch with us by following the links in the show notes. And just as a final sign off again, if you enjoyed what you heard here, you'll definitely enjoy my book, Grow Your Business with Video. The link to get that is in the show notes as well. But that's it for now. Really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did as well, it would be great if you would leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this, so that we can continue to help more people to get more effective video. Until next time, I'll see you later.